This is a Countax K18 ride-on mower from 1992, and this is actually not the first time it's featured on my channel. Exactly 2 years ago I set myself the challenge to try and get it running, and I did. However, it smoked quite badly. Since then, it's been stored under a sheet, preserving it in its own filth and rot. But it is now time to bring this machine back to its former glory. Join me on what is going to be an incredible journey, where we return this machine back to the early 90s. It's going to look like new again. At this stage you're probably thinking, well, this machine is so bad that it's just going to be blown to pieces by a sandblaster. And you'd be correct, it is literally turning to dust in many areas. Those parts will be replaced, so what it will be essentially is 2 bad machines turn into 1 good one. This used to be the fairly rare tool tray which lived underneath the seat. There's not much left of it now. Here is the first of the donor parts, the PTO assembly. So this needs to be disassembled so it can be sandblasted and powder coated along with the rest of the parts. Now I actually didn't have a deck for the machine originally, but I have managed to source this one, and it was not easy. These things are few and far between because they're always rotten, and even the one I found is rotten. So I'm going to have to do a bit of fabrication work to this one. By that I mean cutting out all of the rotten areas, then getting the correct shapes in the new metal, and then welding them into position, and then the whole thing can be sandblasted and powder coated. After many hours of work, the finished result looks like this. It can now be disassembled and added to the pile of parts. And that's all the parts disassembled and ready to be sent off. So from the donor machine I will be taking the center console and also the front axle and a few other smaller parts as well, because they were just too far gone on this machine. So what exactly is the history associated with this lawnmower and the company Countax? Well, obviously nobody can explain the origins of the company better than the company themselves, so I used the Wayback Machine to find an older capture of the Countax website in 2002. So the origins of the company date back to 1984, when the business was founded to make accessories for a manufacturer emerging as a leader in the tractor mower market. After this, their first development was a large diesel-powered commercial mower, which found a steady market with local authorities and commercial markets, and I actually do have in my fairly vast collection the brochure for this exact machine. And you can see it really is quite a beast. In 1989 and 1990, Countax restructured from being a subcontractor to becoming a manufacturer of their own range of garden tractors. With only 6 weeks to produce a machine ready for a major industry trade show, Countax staff worked around the clock to develop a prototype. And they made it with only hours to spare, delivering 3 models to their stand. The launch was successful, and they soon had orders for over 1,000 tractors. And this brings me nicely onto their 2023 website, where they actually do have this fantastic history page. Between 1990 and 92, the original K-Series garden tractor was launched. That is the mower that I am restoring today. The later K-Series was much larger, and that was targeted towards homeowners with a lot of land and contractors. On their 2002 website, they announced that in 1990 their sales and turnover leaped from 2.7 million to a massive 6.7 million. Between 93 and 95, Countax produced a new range of garden tractor, the C-Series, which kind of looked like the K-Series but more of a facelift version. Between 96 and 99, the A-Series tractor was launched. Between 2000 and 2005, this was the start of the noise reduction program with the new K18 50 model, the newer, bigger, quieter K-Series. They were also expanding their assembly lines, with Princess Anne officially opening it. The first diesel tractor was introduced. They also introduced the 4-wheel drive version, and limited edition Williams WF1 600 tractor was launched. Between 2006 and 2009, the new X-Series range was introduced. I'm really pleased that Countax gave the out-front mowers a go, because they really are good machines, although I'm not really too convinced that their ones ever took off. They didn't seem to be around for very long. It may have been because there was already competition from other brands such as Stiga and Husqvarna. The new Williams Formula 1 Team 4-wheel drive model was also launched. 2010 was set with a change of ownership. The Ariens company from America acquired Countax. Also in the same year, the Countax Project running blade mower sets a new world land speed record. Between 2011 and 2020, the new Mark IV C series tractor was launched, and it really does pay its respects to all of the previous older models. It looks very, very similar, but obviously bigger, and it looks a lot more modern. And finally, they manufactured the Powered Grass Collector Plus cassette system for the C and B series tractors. This was a really good idea, because before, where you had to have separate implements for the scarifier and the sweeper, it all could just be slotted into the same main frame. So you could take the sweeper out and you could put the scarifying unit in. A great idea. There's actually something else I want to add to this timeline which Countax missed off, which I kind of find a bit odd because it's a fairly key event really. They were on Top Gear. In the final episode of the 20th season on the 4th of August 2013, they showcased the very best of British engineering. As the UK's leading manufacturer of garden tractors, Countax was approached by Top Gear to appear in the show. They brought along 3 Countax tractors, a C600H, a C600 4-wheel drive, and their diesel model, the A230D. This involved taking the 3 tractors from the Countax factory into central London. They drove them through Hyde Park and then down the centre of the Mall. So from seeing this huge success story, you're probably wondering what Countax are up to today. Well, it came as a bit of a shock to me as well, but the Ariens company that owns Countax has actually discontinued the production of them. However, they do say they're going to be very committed to ensuring everybody is helped out with machinery maintenance and spares. So that's something, but yeah, it is the end of an era. And this is another reason why I'm so dedicated to restoring this one today, because you just never know when a company is going to go out of business, and one day every machine will be scrapped unless somebody is there to look after them. Let's continue with the restoration. Next, I need to disassemble the engine. We're now getting to the point where I need to get inside the engine, but before I can do that, the key needs to be removed from the keyway. And because it's stuck, a great way of doing this is by quenching it. So I heat it up, and then I douse it with cold water, and the key just pops out. I always enjoy the great reveal when you first remove the sump from an engine. You just never know exactly what you're going to find. And in this case, there's quite a lot of build-up in here. You can see exhaust gases have been getting past the head gasket and into the crankcase. Everything is very black. At the bottom of the sump is the mesh screen for the oil pump. And this is the governor on the camshaft. It's always worth making a note of the timing marks. You can see we've got 2 timing dots on both the crankshaft gear and the camshaft there. Very essential for when reassembling. So this is the camshaft, and all the lobes look to be in very good condition, as does the compression release. And then down here we have the valve tappets, or the push rods. To keep these in order, I just very simply mark a piece of cardboard and then pop them into their correct positions. Next, the big ends can be disconnected from the crankshaft, and the pistons can then be pulled out of the engine. Well, this first one looks quite good, a little bit of scoring, not too serious though. And the second one also looks to be quite good. Before these are reinstalled into the engine, I will be fully inspecting them and making sure there's no issues at all with them, and of course they will be getting a new set of rings. But the first impressions are not really too bad. And finally, the crankshaft can be removed. So you really can see that it's all very stained in here. It should be a nice silver colour. We need to really clean things up. We're going to have to remove the bushing, and there's an awful lot of aluminium oxide on the exterior, so I'm going to have to sandblast them as well. But the first step is to remove the oil pump. Then I can put the sump and the crankcase into the hot washer. That will remove the top thick layer of dirt, and then after that I can use white spirit. The hot washer is great for removing the thick oil on the exterior, but it's not so good with the ingrained contamination. That's where the white spirit is fantastic. You can see the before and after here. And the final visual cleanup is with the sandblaster. This is to get rid of that horrible aluminium oxide, and this will make the sump look like new again. But of course, by doing this, it is introducing lots of grit into the sump and into the crankcase, so thorough cleaning is required afterwards. I use so many different methods to deep clean the crankcase and sump. I use brake cleaner, water, ultrasonic cleaner, compressed air, the list goes on. I just am always so concerned that something is going to get left behind, but it's well worth putting the time into it. The results speak for themselves. I'm now going to repeat the same process with the crankcase, and it does take about a day for each one. About halfway through, and this is what it looks like before and after. The crankcase is now sandblasted, but before I can go in with my super deep thorough clean, I'm going to hone the 2 cylinders. This video doesn't really do it justice, but it takes so many hours to get them to this stage. To finish off with, I'm just doing a nice good coat of heatproof lacquer to give them a really nice finish and so that they don't oxidize again. I'm now almost ready to start the reassembly, but before I do, I need to press out this old bushing. And to do this, we need to get the roll pin knocked into the engine crankcase. Unfortunately, I don't have the tool. Briggs & Stratton once made a tool for this, but they don't anymore, so I'm going to have to make it myself. The idea I've gone with here is just so you can put different length bolts in to cater to the application you're working on. It's a simple but effective idea. With the roll pin pushed back, the bushing can now be pressed out.